So the two types of law that are mentioned on 545, you'll want to know. There's criminal law, which you guys can read the two definitions, but I'm just going to give a layman's description that criminal law is more of a serious nature. There are penalties, criminal penalties, and then there's civil law. And those are disputes that don't have criminal penalties. So I don't know if I shared this with you guys, but O.J. Simpson back in '94 was put on trial for the murder of his ex-wife and her friend. And the first court case was a criminal case in which he was found innocent. He was found innocent of murder, and so he was set free. The family of the man that was killed, Ron Goldman, then took O.J. Simpson to civil court, and they won the civil case. O.J. was found guilty in civil court. Now, his penalty was not a criminal penalty. He didn't have to go to jail. He wasn't put on death row. The penalty was simply a monetary fine that he had to pay the family. So that illustrates, I believe, very good the difference between criminal law and civil law. Another thing very quickly that you might not know is in a criminal case, all of the jurors have to find the person guilty to convict. So 12 jurors, it has to be 12-0 in order for them to convict. If one person says, no, I believe they're not guilty, then that is a hung jury. So in a criminal case, all the jurors have to agree. In a civil case, I believe it has to be 9 out of the 12. So a little bit different there. But anyway, know about criminal and civil law for the test. All right, we want to talk now about the different types of courts in our federal system. At the top, as the Supreme Court of the land, thus the title Supreme Court, the Supreme Bar of Justice is the United States Supreme Court. Can somebody tell me how many justices are on this court? Anybody know how many Supreme Court justices there are on the Supreme Court?
Oh, you're actually getting here then?
9.
9, very good. Welcome back, Panama. We're talking about, what was the last thing you guys heard?
Yeah.
I don't know. What was the last thing we heard?
Did you hear me say about O.J. Simpson?
No.
No.
That's okay. I'm going to ask you guys to go back and watch the recording. We're talking about the Supreme Court now is the highest level on the federal court system. And I think it was Olivia from Vian who said there are 9 Supreme Court justices. And I have a nice little pic of them right here. Here are the justices on the Supreme Court. you guys are living in a historic time when we have 3 females on the Supreme Court, because the first female justice was not appointed until around 1980, 81, 82, Sandra Day O'Connor. And then she was by herself for a long time, and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the second, and she just died last year, and she was replaced with this woman here, Amy Coney Barrett, who serves along with, I believe the third one was Sonia Sotomayor, and then Elena Kagan was the 4th woman, and then Amy Coney Barrett, the 5th woman. By the way, cultural reference. One of the best performers on SNL, I think, is Kate McKinnon, and she does a hilarious Ruth Bader Ginsburg sketch. She also does a great Rudy Giuliani as a woman. That's great. Okay. And then under the Supreme Court, we have 12, see it right there, 12 regional circuit courts of appeals or appellate courts. "12 regional courts, and then there's 1 U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Now I have another map showing where these are. So here are the 11 regions. The 12th one is in the Washington, D.C. area, right here. But you can see that Oklahoma, we are a part of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. What does that mean? Well, appellate courts, courts of appeal, are basically a higher court that someone can appeal to, thus the name Court of Appeals, if they lose a case on a lower level court. So for example, let's say Jonathan takes Bryce to court there in LaFleur County for stealing his Reese's cups. And they appear in the county courthouse in Poto, and Bryce is found innocent. He did not take the Reese's cups. Well, Jonathan says, oh no, I know he did. So I'm going to appeal to a higher court. Now, before he would get all the way to this court, Jonathan would appeal to a larger district court in Oklahoma. And then let's say that court says Bryce is innocent. And then eventually Jonathan takes him to court at the Oklahoma Supreme Court level, and they find Bryce innocent. Then Jonathan can appeal to the 10th Federal District Court of Appeals, where the office is in Denver. And if that court finds Bryce innocent, then Jonathan could appeal to the Supreme Court. So that's what appellate courts are all about. If you don't like a court's decision, you can appeal to a higher court. If you go all the way to the Supreme Court and they say, no, your case is no good, well, then you're all out of luck. All righty. And then underneath these 12 courts of appeal are trial courts, and there are 94 judicial federal trial courts or districts. 94 of them. I don't have a map of them, so I don't know where they are. And there are 678 federal district judges who serve in those courts. Now, a trial court, as you can see in your book on page 546, is the first court. It's the first court to hear a criminal case or a civil case. So if you are being taken to court for a criminal crime, you would first go to a trial court. Now, then there are other courts on a federal level, or they're outside the judicial branch, but they are on a federal level, like military courts. Can somebody name a great movie that takes place in a military court? Starring Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, Cuba Gooding Jr. Anybody? Bueller? Very good, that's right. It's called A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men, great movie, taking place in a military court. Then there is a court of appeals for veterans. There is a U.S. tax court. And then there are federal agencies or boards that people have to appear to, which is similar to a hearing. So those are the several types of courts that are detailed on pages 546 all the way through 552. Included in this slide presentation are some more detailed graphs of how all of these other courts fall underneath the Supreme Court. And you can see how different level of cases, where they start and how they work their way up. So if there is a case involving a local law or a state law, it's going to start at a state trial court. And if it continues to, if the plaintiff continues to appeal to higher courts, you can see how it works its way up to the Supreme Court. Cases involving federal laws start in the district courts or the special courts. And then if you have a case that involves a foreign diplomat or another state government or one of our state governments, like if the state of Texas were to sue the state of California, which could happen, because I think California was thinking about banning people from Texas who worked in the government of Texas because of that Texas abortion bill. If Texas were to sue California, it would go right to the Supreme Court. All right. What are the limits on our court's power so that they don't become a ruling body that abuses their power? Well, of course, there is the checks and balances with the other two branches of government. And if the Supreme Court rules on a law that is constitutional, they have to depend upon the executive branch as well as the state branches to enforce their decisions. For example, in 2014, our Oklahoma State Supreme Court legalized gay unions in the state. Even though it was legalized, the state Supreme Court in Oklahoma City, they could not enforce it. They had to depend upon city courts and county courts to enforce it. They had to depend upon county assessors to issue marriage licenses. So that's one limit on the court's power. What if the Supreme Court rules on something and Congress doesn't like it? Well, they can get around it by passing a new law. Or they can change a law that the court said was unconstitutional. Or they can amend the Constitution. The president has power to appoint justices, and the Congress has power to approve those appointments, and Congress has power to impeach and remove justices. So that's another check on the court system. And then a higher court cannot decide if a law is unconstitutional unless the law has been challenged in a lower court and it comes as an appeal. The court accepts only cases that involve a federal question. It usually stays out of political questions. Notice here that the federal court system never considers guilt or innocence. They try to determine if something is unconstitutional or constitutional. Any questions so far? All right, let's cover this last slide and we'll call it a day. What the different types of jurisdiction. When we talk about jurisdiction, we're talking about the right of a court to hear a case. There is original jurisdiction, and that is determines which courts have a right or the right to hear a case for the first time. So here we go back to this chart. If there is a local problem, and I'll go back to my example of Jonathan and Bryce and the Reese's cups, that is a local issue. So that would start out at a state trial court, which would be the LaFleur County Courthouse. Once again, if Texas were to sue California, that is a federal issue that would start at the Supreme Court. So that's original jurisdiction. And then there is appellate jurisdiction. This is going back to if someone loses a case on a lower court level, Jonathan loses his case against Bryce, he can then appeal, and it doesn't go directly to the Supreme Court, but it goes to the next court that has the right to hear it. And that would be, from our chart up here, some state appeal court. There is exclusive jurisdiction. This is something that the Constitution assigns. Federal courts, these are something that only federal courts can hear. And then there's concurrent jurisdiction. These are cases that can be decided in the state or on the federal level. So that's a quick little review of what jurisdiction is. And so if, for example, let's say the Oklahoma City Thunder wanted to sue the Golden State Warriors for taking Kevin Durant a few years ago. Which court would that start out at? Anybody want to propose a guess?
I guess I'll say state. Am I wrong? I'm wrong.
State level. Since it involves two teams that are from different states, I would guess that it would start in one of these lower federal courts.
I thought, okay, yeah.
But I'm not sure on that. So if you want to look that up and share with us on Friday, that would be a good little exercise.
We don't forgive Kevin Durant.
Do what?
So we don't forgive Kevin Durant around here.
We don't forgive him? No.
No.
Because he went to the team that beat us out. That was low.
True. That was low. That was a low blow.
All righty. So any questions about today's stuff on the courts? Hey, you guys are 10. Stop hurting him.
Hey, he said stop hurting him.
Is there no adult supervision there?
No.
Hey guys, have a great Wednesday. Have a great Veterans Day tomorrow. If you know somebody or you got a family member who's a veteran, make sure you tell them thank you for their service, and look forward to seeing you Friday.